All right, well, hello, Dr. Joseph, and hello, future historians. I apologize for the lighting in here. I don't really have a way to dim these to make this look better, but you will see my slides, and I hope you will like them. But for the time being, we'll try to brighten it as best as we can, or dim it as best we can, so you can see these slides. Anyways, my name is David Strickland. I chose to do my fall 2017 term paper project over Samuel Adams. And just like we do in all of our classes in Revolutionary America and all of our classes here at HBU, we'll start with just a quick prayer. So bow your heads if you're watching. That means you too can relate. All right, Lord, thank you so much for everything you do. Thank you so much for HBU and all that it does for all the students here. I pray that through this lecture, people will learn all kinds of great stuff about the American founding. And we pray this in your name. Amen. I didn't close my eyes at all, but it's okay. All right, so Samuel Adams. A lot of people ask me why Samuel Adams, and I say, why not Samuel Adams? No, Samuel Adams, he is he's very special, and I think he's special because he doesn't get a lot of credit for his role in the American Revolution. He's often overshadowed by his brother, his cousin, and his nephew, John Quincy and John Adams. And other than that, Samuel Adams has a rich history. Started a huge political family dynasty, one of the biggest ever in America. And I'm very, very happy to be doing our presentation over him. So let's kick it off. So, if I were to point to 100 different 20 different founding fathers, I bet the average American could probably pick 5. The big, the Franklins, the Washingtons, Jeffersons, and so on. If I were to ask, who is this right here? Who do you think this is? You wouldn't know after today. This is Samuel Adams right here. That's his most famous portrait right here, with him pointing at the Declaration of Independence. That's old Sam right there. But majority of Americans, including some here in this classroom, know him from Samuel Adams the beer right here, Boston Lager right here, Samuel Adams. And other than that, one good thing to be known for, but I'd rather be known for history than beer. But if you're a Bostonian, you know him from the famous portrait right here in front of Faneuil Hall. And I've been to Boston before, and when I saw this, you got to look at it for a little while because it is amazing. If you've ever been to Boston, go. It'll change your life. So, what I say right here, the average American knows this picture from nothing. The average American knows this from the beer. And, of course, the Bostonian will know him from his history, right there, Faneuil Hall. All right, so when I think of Samuel Adams, and I think of Boston, I think of all the other 13 colonies, and I figure, why Boston? Why is all the nonsense and the hot spots going on in Boston and not Charleston and Effingham, Georgia? Why Boston? Well, it's because you have different culture there. Boston and Massachusetts, first of all, is where a lot of the English colonization started. Besides that, Samuel Adams right here, I think something that really sets him apart is where he came from and how he's different than that average Bostonian. So as I put right here, colonist Joe, single talented, comes from a lesser income family, basic standard education, maybe he went by the local butcher, the local blacksmith, the local fisherman, and of course they might consider themselves a loyalist and consider themselves they were British but just living in America. But as for someone like Samuel Adams, who grew up in a great family, multi-skilled, I wrote down here, he, of course, did stuff with Revere, blacksmith, metalsmith. His family was in the malt industry for malt beer. But also came from a family of means, unlike the majority of Bostonians at the time. He was a Harvard graduate, vast popularity in Boston, and American born and bred. So as I said over here, they might consider themselves more loyalist than American, but I feel in the sense that he was third generation, maybe fourth generation, born in America, and considered himself nothing to do with Britain, did not want to be ruled by the British crown, and would do anything to get away from them. That's why Samuel Adams is awesome. Okay, so I'm going to start right here in this presentation, right here around 1764. I could talk a bunch about Samuel Adams before and a little bit after, but I'm going to try to measure this between 1764 and around 1795. And that kind of be the gist of the presentation. But Sugar Act gone sour. Now that's funny, you can laugh. All right, Sugar Act. So after the conclusion of the 7 Years' War in 1763, just like how our class started, the British Empire had to find a way to repay their war debts. So, boom, what do? They try to tax the American colonists. So, as we all know how the Sugar Act turned out, did not make people happy, did not bless them. Year later, the Stamp Act is really where I say Samuel Adams really got ticked off. You can live over here being happy, but after the Stamp Act, just a year later, 2 taxes in 2 years, he kind of already saw a precedent coming into place of what the British was trying to do. So what they do, they send it back, the Sons of Liberty is created, and boom, Samuel Adams is who we know as the Samuel Adams of today. Stamp Act, I think a lot of people actually think it's, let's see, regular stamps like we have now, like stamps on our hand or stamps for letters and stuff. But really, the Stamp Act was pretty much any paper at the time, and for papers for deeds, papers for legal papers, papers for marriage, papers for divorce, anything that had to do with legality with papers had to have the British stamp on it, which is probably everything, honestly. So what they do, they send it back. 2 years later, Townshend Act did not make them happy either. That was a tax on just about anything you could think of. You got it. Paint, there's a tax on it. Glass, there's a tax on it. What else? My mind's blanking at the moment. Lemonade, there was probably a tax on that too. Alright, so as we go down a little bit further, the Boston Massacre in 1770. First bloodshed in the American Revolution. I've been to the Boston Massacre, and I gotta tell you, it is something to see. And it was ironically that it was nighttime when I walked by it, and just from my regular American history, I kind of just knew where I was at. It was something real bizarre. The first man to ever die, he was a black man. His name escapes me at the moment, but he was buried actually less than 50 feet from Samuel Adams in the granary right there in Boston. Tea Act, 1773, what I put down here, right here, the nail of the coffin. And that was the final straw. And that same year, the biggest event up until Concord and Lexington, the Boston Tea Party. So Samuel Adams was the mastermind of the whole revolt, and this almost put him on the map. And he was already well known in Boston and Massachusetts and places like New York, but this really put him on the map in Britain, which I kind of want to say he wanted to be there. After that whole Boston Tea Party in December of 1773, they wanted his head. Next slide. Okay, so Adams was known for his 3 things: wanting to rile up, revolt, and rebel, the 3 R's. Not reduce, recycle, and reuse. I know that's what you were thinking. Alright, so the British's main goal, capture Adams, try him in court, and of course, they were going to put him to death. Because they knew if they could capture Adams, they could stomp the colonist rebellion, and everything would be good as new. They can continue taxing, and I'll be fine. But, as history played out, that did not happen. Score for America. So, Lexington, small little skirmish. Concord, first battle in the American Revolution. victory for the colonists, or at that time I guess we'd start calling them American. And voila, Adams is not captured, and none of the guns are seized, and a great colonist victory. But would not be that happy for long. So boom, British 0, Adams 2. All right, I'm going to talk real quick about the Sons of Liberty. I feel like a lot of people don't really know what the Sons of Liberty is. And if I ask a lot of people, they probably think that was Jack Black right there. But that's not Jack Black, that's Paul Revere. And if I said, "Come ye children, gather near," as I tell you about the midnight ride of Paul Revere, that would grab probably everyone's attention in the whole room. But I don't know the rest of the poem, sadly. But Paul Revere was the leader in Boston's working class. He owned a silver mill, a vast influence within the working class of Boston. And of course, he's also credited for the drawing of the Boston Massacre and other different drawings within the Boston Harbor. But yeah, Midnight Ride poem, definitely one to listen to. John Hancock. John Hancock was the richest man in North America at the time. Everyone knew him. There was not one person who knew John Hancock because one thing, he was involved in almost every industry, whether it be legal or illegal. But yeah, greater influence than any other man in North America, hence why he was president of the First Continental Congress. Hancock. John Adams. So John Adams is the second cousin to Samuel Adams, and those two families did not really see eye to eye, and nor did Samuel or John see eye to eye. But at this time, between the few years that we're talking about right now, they actually were on the same page. But once the Articles of Confederation was signed and Samuel started his governorship, things started to clash between them. Anyways, John Adams, I say, is probably the greatest legal eagle in North America at the time. He represented the British soldiers that were involved in the Boston Massacre. But what I wrote here is that he kind of has the outward legal mind. He knew what was legal, he knew what not to do, he knew what would make the British mad, he knew the legality of everything. Vital part of the team, of the big four of the Sons of Liberty. And without their captain, who do you think it is? 1, 2, 3, you heard it, it's Samuel Adams, the captain, the leader of the Sons of Liberty. He was a tenacious guy, was harsh on his beliefs. You would fear him if he came through, and he would command you, and you would listen to him. You would not want to mess with this guy. But also, he knew how to lead, and he knew how to rile up people, and he knew right from wrong. He probably had John Locke in one hand and the Bible in the other, and did that for several years, I bet. That's kind of my idea. The John Lockean, Bible thumper, beer drinker kind of guy, you know. I bet he's the kind of guy, if you were like at a bar, which I'm throwing this out there, would just not stop talking if you saw him. That kind of guy. But when you left, you would say, man, that guy is smart. Kind of like Dr. Joseph. Speaking of Dr. Joseph, I didn't know Dr. Joseph was in the Sons of Liberty. I mean, I was kind of in shock too, but of course, other notable Sons of Liberty that we're going to just not really go through, you know, Benedict Arnold, great history on him, Patrick Henry, you could write a paper on him, James Otis Jr. Oh, Dr. Joseph. I know what I did, Here, I think I got to cook it. Dr. Joseph Warren, yeah, okay, that makes more sense, Dr. Joseph Warren, yeah. He was a great Sons of Liberty, and you learned a lot about him with the Bostonian Revolt, the recognizable flag, anyone? I bet you don't. That's the Sons of Liberty flag. So I bet if you saw that coming at you, you'd want to lock your door. So one thing I've kind of found out and kind of saw different questions between different historians and different sources was who started the revolution? Was it Massachusetts or was it Virginia? Okay, was it the people revolting in Massachusetts or was it brains in Virginia that were triggering this conflict? And what I kind of put together was that it was Massachusetts' battle, but Virginia kind of started the war. See, you can't have one without the other. Virginia would not have done what they'd done if the rebellion didn't start in Massachusetts. When they dumped the tea in the harbor, or when they sent back the stamps, and so on and so forth. So really, you can't have one without the other. In my opinion, it was Boston, though. But let's see. George Washington was kind of the one that settled the debate. When he said we stand with Massachusetts, and the army came to help liberate them, all things were aside because he did not question old George. That's for sure. And here is a picture of George Washington in the Boston Commons. I took this picture myself when I was there. Great statue, and I really hope that does not come down one day. I doubt it will, though. But yeah, George Washington led the charge to help liberate Boston from the British in 1776, aka British leaving Boston Day, which happens to land on March 17th. What's March 17th? St. Patty's Day. No, it's not St. Patrick's Day. It's British leaving Boston Day. But George Washington, you gotta love him. Greatest American that ever lived. But in my opinion, maybe the third greatest American to ever live, and ironically the third president of the United States, Thomas Jefferson. Now, I had the privilege to meet our third president a month ago, and it was amazing. It was probably one of my highlights here at HBU. But as I got to NZC, we're standing here at the Declaration of Independence. And one question I wanted to ask him, I asked, there's this question on, does the title Father of the Revolution, is that accurate, or is that too much to give to a character like Samuel Adams? And he quickly said, oh, no, we couldn't have the revolution without him. No, he was the he said, in Thomas Jefferson's words, I met the guy. In Thomas Jefferson's words, he said that there would be no revolution without the leadership of Samuel Adams. And I'll have some more sources to back that up later. But it was great to meet the president. And anyways, I made a funny joke. I said, oh, here's our third president with our 53rd president. Vote for me. 2050 or whatever. Whatever that is. Alright, so back to that first portrait. Right here, Samuel Adams. And really the focal point is not Samuel here with a dark background. It's what he's pointing at right here, which is the Declaration of Independence and his push for independence. I think he wanted to be free from the mother country more than anyone, and he would do just that at any. I think that's very, very profound that his most famous portrait would be right here pointing at the Declaration. So, let's see, I said John Locke in one hand and the Bible in the other. How about John Locke in one hand with the Declaration inside that, holding the Bible? That's Samuel Adams for you. So I want to talk about one specific month in 1776, which I think is really, really interesting throughout my research, was between the ratification of the Declaration of Independence and the signing of the Declaration of Independence. And I think that a lot of people don't really know that it was on July 2nd in 1776 that it was ratified, it was voted on, agreed on, and pulled a Marco Rubio. That it was agreed on and taken on. And it wasn't until the 4th that it was actually, I guess, spoken into everyone in Philadelphia and so on to get the message out that they were finally independent. And I guess you gotta have at least 2 days to throw an awesome party, right, Carlo? But the signing of the Declaration of Independence, I guess Samuel Adams, I think he believed that it really wasn't a legitimate document until it was the delegates from the 13 colonies, I guess you can call the smartest of the brightest of the brightest, the smartest of the smartest, the legal eagles between all of them, all coming together, 56 in total, to sign this thing. And of course, like we learned in class, it's like signing your death warrant. They knew that signing this paper right here for this cause is not just signing it to go down in history. It was signing a death warrant. And I believe, it wasn't Samuel Adams pushing them that this thing is not legitimate, and then sent over to King George without our signature on it. The most recognizable signature on the Declaration of Independence, what is it?
John Hancock?
John Hancock, that's right. Do you know why he signed it so big? It's because he was president of the Continental Congress.
Oh.
So what I learned is that he signed it so large and big, and is because he thought he'd be the only one signing it. And I bet it was Sam in there saying, okay, John, you know, you are the president, and you are the most well-known here, but we all have to sign this. This is more than that, because it's John Hancock, I guess, really would have been just representing Massachusetts, but I guess Sam pushed, okay, us 55 guys have to sign this to make this legitimate, and that's exactly what that did. And ironically, what day do you think Samuel Adams stood before the other 55 men in the Second Continental Congress to encourage them to sign this document? What do you think it is?
July 4th.
August 2nd, August 1st. So August 1st, he gave a very amazing speech to encourage that this document needs to be signed and sent. Or as Harry Massoud would say, signed, sealed, and delivered. That's right. So I got a good video right here. I'm going to show you all real quick.
I know what most of you think of me. That I'm a thug, a smuggler, rebel. And I started all of this. Asked for it. A drunk who never did anything with his life. And has caused all this trouble for everybody. Well, I'm here today to tell you that you're right. I am all of those things and more. But in the eyes of the crown, I'm nothing. In the eyes of the crown, you are nothing. You're just colonists. Who do you want to be? I mean, the answer actually isn't even important. It's the idea that we even have the right to ask the question, who do we want to be? We don't need a birthright. We don't need a family crest. And we certainly don't need the king's damn permission. What we need is a fair and equal chance. The freedom to live our lives the way that we see fit. And the confidence that that freedom cannot be taken away from us. That is our God-given right. And I, for one, am willing to fight for it. I'm willing to die for it. Independence. General.
Walk on this.
Independence.
Yeah, Samuel Adams. So that speech to the Continental Congress on August 1st is arguably one of his greatest speeches, and the dramatized version that you just saw was real great stuff. But once you read the real thing, you can kind of get a better picture of why it was so influential and probably one of the greatest speeches ever given in American history. But as you can see right here, the Committee of Five, given the Declaration, all the other delegates right behind him for this one cause right here. And right before all these brainiacs right here was this very, very special speech. And it's very big, but I'm not going to read it just for time concerns. But I do encourage y'all to. So I'm going to start wrapping this up. The legacy of Samuel Adams. As we know, before he was he was the leader of the Sons of Liberty, signed the Declaration of Independence, signer of the Articles of Confederation, and was also on the Committee of Five to draft it. A lot of people don't know that. And the fourth governor of Massachusetts for 3 years. Oh, and ironically, 2 years ago, he and Paul Revere, in 1795, they hid a time capsule in the Boston State House, and it was just uncovered 2 years ago, 2015. And in it was, which I think is a really cool thing, we were the currency from the Plymouth colony. Now, to be a British colony at that time and have their own currency was disobeying the British crown. And so in a way, I think he put that in that time capsule to prove that they've been independent from the very beginning, from the very first colony, those 2 English colonies in Plymouth. Which I think is very, very profound. And he put that there for a reason, was to know that, okay, what they did in the late 18th century was for their independence, but they really had been revolting, I guess, from the very, very start with the Pilgrims and Puritans. Anyways. So, again, father of the revolution. And I apologize for the font here. When I use this new PowerPoint thing here at HBU, it messed it up. But you will get the nice one. Father of revolution. Is it an overstatement, understatement? Is it on? Is it too much? Is it too little? I think for the average person to tell them that a guy, Samuel Adams, the beer guy, is the father of this whole American Revolution, the reason why we're all Americans today, yeah, it might seem real strange to them. But once you really dig deeper and you find the history and you figure out what he did at the time and all the sources in between it, his involvement, you really do see that it's an understatement, really, for Samuel Adams, in my opinion. One of the greatest quotes, I think, that kind of sums up this whole debate that I mentioned earlier was ironically, his cousin, John Adams. He said, without the character of Samuel Adams, the true history of the American Revolution can never be written. For 50 years, his pen, his tongue, and his activity were constantly exerted for his country without fee or reward. He did it willingly. He did it for us. He did it for you watching at home. That's Samuel Adams. So, and that'll do it right there. Oh, one last funny joke before I have closing remarks. When I took this picture right here in Boston, and our tour guide, who they all dressed up colonists, he said, here's Samuel Adams, right? And here's the only place in the whole entire world where you can turn around, go up into that bar, you can drink a cold Sam Adams while you look at a cold Sam Adams. And I said, I gotta do that one day, but I couldn't at that point in time, but I gotta do that one day to admire what Samuel Adams did for all of us. But anyways, yeah. While the modern historians have pushed back against the view that Adams was too radical, it is proving hard for the accurate history to make deal with. On one hand, he can be viewed as a great patriot, spurring oppressed colonists to revolt against the tyrannical mother country. On the other, he can be viewed as a man so steadfast in his beliefs that he was determined to have his own way at any cost. Adams believed that the American colonists did have the right to rule themselves, and he was going to make it happen no matter what. So, thank you for watching. We took something of great importance from this lecture right here. I know I messed up. I know it's a little difficult for you to see, but I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you'll be lenient towards it. So, God bless you. God bless Texas. And God bless Samuel Adams. Thank you. Peace.